Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm so glad that you decided to join us for our first Straight Talk session of the year that the School of Business and Professional Studies is hosting with corporate partners around the world. Now that we're not limited by location, we have been able to reach out to people or to organizations, businesses all over the world. But we're very happy that our first Straight Talk for 2020-2021 is with one of our partners who is who is within walking distance of Shaw University, and that's Red Hat. For those of you on the call, if you go outside, look up on campus, you will see the Red Hat building. And I'm excited as the Dean to welcome each of you to this first Straight Talk session. We're going to ask one of our faculty members, Professor James Brown, to be the moderator for the session. We want to be sure that everybody gets a chance to hear from the panelists today and that you'll get a chance to follow up. And it's just my pleasure to have those from Red Hat here, as well as those from Shaw University. Professor Brown.
All right, thank you, Dean Wood. My name is Professor Brown. I am an adjunct computer science professor here at Shaw University. First off, I want to thank everyone for making it out today. I know there were some technical difficulties, but I'm just glad you were all able to make it and join us today. Particularly, I'd like to thank our panelists. Thank you all for coming out and sharing your stories. As many of you know, technology is a huge part of our lives, to where we can't do simple things without the assistance of technology, whether it be going to the grocery store or ordering your favorite McDonald's. Well, today you'll have the opportunity to hear from some of the professionals that make it possible and hear their stories and experiences, and hopefully maybe some of those experiences you've had or you could potentially experience in the future. Here at Shaw, we are incredibly excited about this opportunity to partner with Red Hat. And for those of you who aren't really familiar with who Red Hat is, it's a multi-billion-dollar technology organization specializing in Linux and many, many other things. And as Dean Wood said, right in our backyard. So on students, somewhere on your screens, there should be a poll for student submitted questions. Please upvote the ones that you see or that you would like to have answered at the conclusion of this talk. So without further ado, again, thank you for coming out. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Sherrod Griffin. He is Director of Software Engineering at Red Hat. And he's going to tell you why it's important to Red Hat and why we're here from their perspective. Sherrod?
Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining. It's no secret when we look at the current landscape and look at what's happening with Black Lives Matter and social equality. It's causing a lot of businesses and a lot of people to have self-reflection. And that actually happened in Red Hat as well. And we'll talk a lot about Red Hat's openness and transparency. And part of that was taking a look at how can we help progress equality across engineering and the work that we do in open source. And that directly correlated to the great partnership that we have with Shaw University and some opportunities there. And we just started thinking about how can we work with engineers, Black engineers in a younger demographic than we would normally start to look at them, and work together to cultivate the talent, making sure that there are proper skills and opportunities for Black engineers to be able to have an employment opportunity. And that starts with us engaging with you in this level of capacity, all the way up through internship possibilities and possibly even employment opportunities. In order to do that, we really want to make sure that we are being fair in how we address gaps that are there socially, and making sure that everyone can do their part in terms of progressing for equality across the board. And so when we looked at the numbers, if you go to redhat.com, you can search for our diversity. We say we're a very diverse and we're a very open organization, but when we started looking at the numbers, you have 3% Black engineers at the company, and you have 0% leadership on the executive level for Blacks. That's something that was a little bit striking for us, and we decided to see, how can we improve that? And I think this is one of the first events that we're looking to help in that capacity. And so when we look at this, we really need your help, right? It's less about us helping you. It's more about we need your help to make sure that we're getting the right ideas from a diversity perspective. We need to make sure that we're getting the right type of diversity across the board so that we can bring the best skills to the table as a corporation and make sure that we're eliminating barriers to entry. So that's really why we're here. You see the information about who we are. We are the leading enterprise for open source solutions. And we are also in a lot of different countries and a lot of different areas. But we wanted to start with our own backyard and see what we can do to make sure that we have a more diverse landscape, which will foster diverse innovation as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you. So next, we're going to have our panelists introduce themselves very briefly. They're going to talk more about what they do at Red Hat and how they got there in the following questions. But just very briefly, just going left to right, please introduce yourself, panelists.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michelle Davis. I live in the Washington, D.C. area in Maryland. I have been at Red Hat actually physically for about 9 years, but I came in through acquisition, so I've been here 22 years. And that acquisition was from IBM, so I've only actually had one employer, which is pretty cool. And I am a solutions architect, and I am the senior manager of the DoD Solution Architects at Red Hat. And as you see, I went to Johns Hopkins and I went to Drexel University.
Hi, Landon Smith here, senior software engineer at Red Hat. I work for Sherrard in the AI Center of Excellence. Born and raised in North Carolina, based out of Raleigh, and a degree in computer science. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Ron Brown here, just joined Red Hat in February of this year. Graduated from UNC Chapel Hill. My background is in training, so I'm an educator by trade and just happened to fall into technical enablement. And so that's what I do for the IT department, just help people with their careers, also manage the internship program for IT, as well as a few other things that we'll get into later. So happy to be here, happy to learn from you all and participate in this discussion. Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Tremaine Darby, originally from Queens, New York, but came down here to go to school and got stuck. So I'm a graduate of Hofstra University and UNC Chapel Hill. I currently am an engineering manager of a DevOps team. We handle, the content delivery network and RHSM, which is our subscription management offering. And I'm just happy to share with you all this evening.
Hi, I'm Sherrard. I'm Director in Software Engineering in the AI Center of Excellence at Red Hat. And you learn new things about your coworkers every day. Tremaine, I'm from Queens as well. I was born in Queens. However, I moved to North Carolina when I was 8. And from a very early age in Queens, my father taught me how to program using BASIC. Many of the people on the phone call may not even remember what BASIC is. But at Red Hat, I was brought there 3 years ago to launch a project called Open Data Hub, which is an implementation of doing AI in a hybrid cloud scenario. So we do a lot of AI infrastructure at Red Hat, as well as more service-oriented things in the AI industry, and working with researchers and collaborators across our partner ecosystem to bring the best AI tools and the best technologies to our customers.
All right, fantastic. Again, thank you all for joining us today and sharing those stories with us. So we go to the next slide. Now, so each one of our panelists, could you please answer this question as well? Going in the same order. What is your background? And some of you touched on that. But what made you interested in computer science, or for some of you, technology in general?
Okay. Going in the same order, my background is a public school student in Asbury Park, Neptune, New Jersey. And what's interesting about that location, if you don't know, is that is the home of Ma Bell. So technology was being birthed in that area known as something called Bell Labs. And Bell Labs, if you ever teach this in the schools, had a monopoly on all of the ingenuity, all the engineering that was coming out. And, you know, back then companies took an interest, like Red Hat has taken an interest on you all. Companies took an interest on the schools and the community that they infringed upon when they brought their corporation there. So I was one of the students that got picked to go hang out during weekends and summer at this Bell Labs. And lo and behold, I didn't know this, but I was an intern for Carnegie and Ritchie. And if you got your computer science hat on, you do know that they created the C language, and they created it in the basement of Bell Labs. And I was hired as a database intern when I was in high school to go there and work with these engineers at this Bell Labs. And I say this to say that you got to listen to people that might know a little more than you do and see a little something in you, and let them provide some guidance. Because again, public school system wasn't quite sure, but from that experience, I knew then I was going to go into computer science. And well, I knew then I was going to go into some type of science. And just seeing what was being made and the energy and everything, just watching. So if you can get an internship and just watching and seeing the energy that's going on, I just wanted to do that. So it's kind of what made me go into computer science, is because someone took an interest in me and nudged me in the right direction.
Landon here. So my background is all things software. I think I was drawn to computers at a very young age after watching the movie War Games, which is twice as old as probably everybody else on this call. And I was fortunate enough my freshman year of college to be able to live in a dorm for the computer and technology theme program, which essentially meant that I was surrounded by people, for the first time, people that were knew much more about computers than I did. So just, you know, being able to see like all the cool things that they could do, seeing the Linux and Nix operating system for the first time, and being able to do like everything at the command line and do a bunch of cool things. It was just, I was hooked from that moment. So the thing I love about kind of computer science or computers in general is just the possibility. So it's an endless field. And even at Red Hat, there's so much to learn every single day. So that's the one thing that keeps me interested, is there's always something new to learn. That's it.
I too was drawn to computer science, and at a very early age, I didn't necessarily major in computer science when I was in school, but one of my very first experiences was going to the library and actually checking out a computer. It's a TSR computer, and play video games on that computer. And every time we had the ability to check out that computer, I was just so amazed at kind of the things that you could do, programming, the mouse going around, the little triangle going around. I mean, it was a very exciting time for myself and my brother. And so I was always kind of drawn to technology and programming. And in school, I learned how to do web design and things like that. But I never really took the leap into computer science and pursued the degree itself. So my background is, first I graduated with a degree in kind of statistics. It was actuarial science. Then I went back and got a degree in information science, studying databases, and then I went back and got my PhD. So I've always been kind of tangent or very close to the computer science field, quite knowledgeable about programming, but not necessarily always in the thick of it, programming itself.
So I too was not a computer science major all the way through high school. I assumed that I was going to be a doctor because, you know, my parents gave me two choices. Well, three actually: doctor, lawyer, engineer. So I was like, you know, I got to pick one. Always interested in the medical sciences, but realized about halfway through high school when they made me volunteer in a hospital that I didn't really want to do that. So I went for the engineering route and decided to go for biomedical engineering. And about halfway through my master's degree, realized I didn't want to do that. So I'm a little fickle, but willing to try new things. And so when I got to my first job, there was, an opening. They needed somebody to basically maintain the departmental website. And I was like, sure, I'll try that. And the rest is history. So mainly self-taught, knocked them over the head for a bunch of training, went to some user groups and asked a lot of questions and did a lot of Googling and ended up making it my career. So, I guess the thing is, it's okay to change your mind and try new things.
For me, I remember, being 6 years old in Brooklyn and, being exposed to coding at a very early age with my dad. That was an anomaly. If anybody's from the projects, you know how much of an anomaly it is, the fact that you even have a computer back in the 80s, let alone someone who's showing you how to do programming on it at such a young age. So you would think all of those years of exposure to computer science, because my dad was a computer science major and worked for First Union doing computers, that I would have been decent at it. No, I sucked. And so all throughout high school, did terrible in computer science. College, I didn't do very well at all in my beginning years until I interned. And in fact, I was trying to decide, do I want to be a music major or a computer science major? And then I got my first internship and got my first paycheck. I was like, oh, hell, I'm going for that money. So, I quickly pivoted, ended up going to computer science all the way. I minored in music, got a great internship opportunity with SAS Institute, and worked with them for 15 years. It was very, very critical and a life changer because I was recruited by a Black woman at SAS whose sole purpose was to find diverse talent with Blacks and Hispanics. And she really changed my life. Had she not looked at me and given me the opportunity, even though I wasn't the most talented and I couldn't really compete with all the other interns, I saw that as a challenge, and I decided to prove to myself that I belonged and that I could do it. And so she gave me that opportunity at SAS, and I did very well in my career at SAS. And here I am at Red Hat, enjoying every minute of it as well. So I made the decision strictly monetarily. Yeah, I love computer science as well. I absolutely love it. Along with music, those are my two passions. But at the end of the day, I had to choose because I saw that paycheck and loved every bit of spending that money.
And I love your honesty. So as many diverse careers there are in computing, there's also an equal number of diverse pathways toward a career in it. So I hope some of those experiences are similar to what you all experience now. Now, this question right here, I don't know about you all, but I definitely asked this question on many different occasions. So did you ever want to change majors? If so, why did you stay in CS or whatever field that you stayed in or degree?
Actually had this one going in order again. I actually was a math major. Like Ron, I thought I was going to be an actuarian. And they're in the same college. So we're in the College of Science. So I actually thought I was going to do that. And I started getting, more difficult classes. And when I got to differential equations, I couldn't figure out why they were teaching that to me and why I would ever use it. But this computer stuff, I took this programming class and I felt like I got this. And I felt like I could see the results of something I did, which is I couldn't figure out anything in differential equations. So I flipped to computer science. And it's something about the thrill of, I'm not going to let this computer beat me. It's you versus it. And if you have a competitive, you want to achieve something and just a drive to figure things out, computers is a natural gravitation because you're not going to let it beat you. If you play video games, the computer is the biggest video game out here. It's you against it. And I'm like, no, this program's going to work. It's going to say hello world. If I'm going to be up all night, it's going to say hello world. And I just found that adrenaline rush pretty exciting. And I still do. So it was a challenge, and I could see the results in math and other stuff. I just couldn't figure out why it was even here.
Anyone else want to take a stab at this question?
I think I already explained my choice there pretty transparently.
I think I want to mention that I did consider computer science as a major, but the mid-late 90s was a different time and tech wasn't quite as in your face as it is right now. So I didn't necessarily see the value of it at the time, but I'm glad I eventually stumbled into it because it's everywhere. Like, you know, I heard somebody say every tech company is a tech company at this point because you have to, you know, have those skills and have to have those competencies. So it's great.
All right, thank you. So some of you explained it very briefly, but what do you do at Red Hat, right? And is this what you expected when you were in school?
I don't mind taking this. So what I do at Red Hat is I am a senior software engineer. As we all know, software engineer, write code. Actually, I write less code. So you find out that like the longer you're at a job or the higher you get, the less code you write. So enjoy it while you can. There's a lot of meetings and presentations because open source at Red Hat is all about collaboration. So probably the biggest thing that I did not expect when I was in school to now that I've been in the professional world for 15 to 20 years is all the things that you learn lay the groundwork. But ultimately, no matter what field you're in, it's about kind of how you can collaborate with others. So I think for the most part, I expected everything that I do now. It's definitely kind of, I've been a fan of Red Hat for, gosh, 15 years. So I expected, you know, to not be the smartest person in the room, to have access to all this information and technology. The one thing I didn't expect is kind of how much you need to have those soft skills to really succeed. So it doesn't matter how much you know. If you can't work with others to get things done, then there's going to be a pretty hard ceiling you're going to hit. So that was the biggest thing that I didn't fully expect when I was in school.
Yeah. I did not, what I do at Red Hat today is not at all what I would have expected coming out of school and what I've learned in school, but that's not a bad thing. I think Red Hat is a very unique company. I spend a lot of my day strategizing. What do we need to do to be competitive in the market? What partners do we need to work with? You know, what technologies do we need to look at that are in other open source communities that we need to roll into our ecosystem? And unlike most companies, Red Hat allows you, especially if you more gravitate towards like the entrepreneurial spirit, or, you know, looking at things that's not just technical, but looking at how it applies to a business and understanding those business, you know, the business side of things. Red Hat is great at that. And it's allowed me to express that side of me. I've always been interested in entrepreneurial activities. I've done a lot of startups that have failed miserably. However, the difference is, you know, going into Red Hat, you're able to cultivate that love, that passion for business and that passion for success, and use your technology skills to get it across the finish line. So a lot of my days, I'm usually chatting. I never thought I'd have a job where like 7 hours a day. I'm sitting there talking and strategizing, but I love every minute of it. I love the collaboration. I love the coordination. I love, having a technical discussion with brilliant engineers like Landon 1 hour, and then, on the phone with marketing and sales the next hour. There's not too many businesses and there's not too many companies that give you that type of opportunity.
Perfect. And I actually personally love this question because many students think computer science, you're only going to be programming and coding in a job. And some people love that, but others, don't necessarily want to do that all day. And to hear that there are other jobs and other careers available in technology that aren't necessarily so technical at a computer typing all day, I'm sure that a lot of students wanted to hear that. Next slide, please. All right, so big question. What should students understand about the world of tech, or what types of advice or tips would you give them?
Well, I would love to answer this one just because I think my main takeaway from my 20+ year career is that everything moves so fast and everything is changing so much that you should never be afraid to apply for a position, because there's no way you're going to know 100% of everything that's going to happen anyway, right? I can't tell you how many times I have been given a task and I had to Google, what the heck is this? I'll pull code snippets off the web. Like it's crazy. So, don't feel like you have to have 100% of what's in a job description in order to go for that job. It's more important that you know the basics, that you know the general ways that things are put together, and that you know how to learn tech. And that goes a long way. Things like design patterns, those are things that you should really focus on, rather than just because, the language itself, that's just syntax, right? You got to know how to program.
And I'll say for me, just to piggyback off what Tremaine said, it's really the amount of, it's rare that you have somebody that knows every single in and out of some technology or programming language. So those people exist, and they are definitely at Red Hat. But ultimately, it's about kind of being able to find the answers, not necessarily knowing the answer immediately. So just work on kind of, your ability to collaborate with others, kind of ask them for questions. And this is a skill that I'm still trying to improve upon to this day. Asking for help is a big thing. And then the world of tech, it's not just a degree. I think when I graduated many years ago, there were a lot of people flooding the computer science program just to get that piece of paper, because that was quick money. And I graduated literally just before the dot-com bubble. So once they got that degree, and then the market kind of bottomed out and new technologies arose, since they weren't in school, they didn't had the understanding, kind of pick up the new things. So go out there, experiment with different things. I can tell you that something as small as like a weekend project, having knowledge of those quick little projects that I just spent a day or two learning about, those are probably the most important projects that helped me to get a job. Not necessarily kind of, making a great grade on a test, but the extra effort that I put in just to learn something that was interesting to me that I could talk about in an interview. Those projects were probably the most important things that I did for myself.
Yeah, and I'll add a little bit of color to that. When I look at young engineers and looking for ways in which people can stand out, because it's a crowded market. If you look at all of the talent that's in technology, there's a huge landscape and a lot of people entering into it. Some of the things that I think always stand out is, don't be afraid to show your passion and excitement for the technology. A lot of times that rings true. When we know that you're excited about what you're working on, that's a big deal. And then the other side, I always tell young engineers, don't be afraid to show that you have ideas and that you want to share those ideas with others. Because a lot of times people are afraid to share their ideas because they don't feel like they've earned enough of a reputation or they've been in the job long enough. A lot of times we're looking for those fresh angles, the new way of thinking that we just hadn't thought about it because we've been doing this for 10 years and we need some new ideas. So just make sure you're not afraid to express those ideas.
I think that's very important, just fostering that natural curiosity. I actually had a professor one time tell me that the way he views things now at this point, he's kind of in a box. And he's looking for those fresh ideas to kind of expand that box or even outside the box way of thinking. So always foster that natural curiosity. All right, next slide, please. So just going back in time a little bit, we don't have to tell our age. I did hear a basic reference, but so just looking back in time, what would you have done differently in school to be better prepared for your future careers?
Yeah, I can jump in here. One of the things that I would have done is I would have spent more time on my social network as it relates to within school as well as my peers, understanding that it's that network, and it definitely with the age of LinkedIn and social networks, it's very apparent now how critical those social networks are. But just maintaining those relationships with faculty and not just reaching out of the blue and just saying, hey, I need a reference for this resume and things like that. You know, those are some of the things I kind of learned over time.
And I'll say for me, one of the things that I would have done differently is kind of the same thing Dr. Ron said, social kind of interpersonal communication, kind of get out of my bubble and learn how to interact with people face to face, not just online or through like, you know, gaming chat. Go join some clubs, like anything where you can interact with people on a social level, just so you learn how to talk with people, small talk, join a club. Those are probably the big things to work on, those soft skills. Soft skills are probably, being in the tech field, I mean, I would drop classes if they had me writing a paper or giving a presentation. Luckily, my first 2 jobs out of college forced me to interact with people on a personal level. So that's probably the big thing that I would have focused on more, is just getting out of my shell and interacting with people.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm not going to lie. When I was like a junior in college, I thought I was the man. I thought I knew everything. No one could tell me otherwise. They need to learn from me. That was my attitude. And I think certainly looking back, I realized how naive I was back then. And I would have spent a lot more time maybe finding a mentor and also listening to the advice of others. You know, sometimes people tell you advice and it may be misplaced, but really just focusing on feedback and understanding that I don't have it all, right? And understanding those weaknesses and really doing some self-reflection and finding out ways to align myself with mentors that can take those weaknesses and strengthen them a little bit.
Michelle, Tremaine, would you like to jump in here and give your perspective, give something?
Yeah, I mean, the theme around, you know, interpersonal, you know, relations and growing your network, I think that, you know, it cannot be overstated. And I'll just add that aside from my very first real job, every job I've gotten in my career is because I've known someone in that company, because I've used my network, because someone vouched for me. And I would say even moving around in a company, you need to have somebody in that room who can advocate for you. So it's not just about mentors, it's about sponsors as well. So, you know, it's definitely interpersonal relationships, communication, all of that can't be overstated.
I would add, if I were to go back and do it again, I would kind of learn myself a little earlier, learn about how you study, learn about how you learn about how you take things in. That's going to drive everything you do in your life if you know how you like to do it. I didn't pay any attention to that till I found myself always cramming, always last minute, always with the wrong material to learn. So learn how you learn things. Learn about yourself just a little earlier. Go a little far.
And just to recap, yes, learning yourself is very important. Each one of us are unique people, and we learn, we study, we work differently. So learning yourself is very important. And developing those social skills early and developing your network early is very important as well. All right, so on to the next one. The question all the students are really looking forward to. What salary range and earning potential can CS grads expect?
Limitless, limitless. So many variables here and so much public information that is actually kind of valid that you can go out and find. But it's where do you want to live? What aspect do you want to take in? So many aspects to that, but if we go back to the premise that every company is using IT as a key differentiation, and IT is, at the end of the day, computers, you will always be in demand and a breed to be with. You can, and so the salaries range anywhere 60s and on up. And again, I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm in the second Silicon Valley. They are, they're making here coming out of school maybe about 70, 75, maybe 60, 65 in North Carolina. Information is out there, but you're not limited to, again, programming. Looking to, I want to be a data scientist. I want to make heads or tail out the data. I'm not necessarily want to sit here and churn on the computer. I like the networking part of it. I may want to go into networking. I like trying to figure out how things work. I might want to be a product manager of that. I am a solutions architect. I didn't have it all together, but I did have some goals. One of my goals was when I got out of undergrad, somebody better pay for my grad school. So I found a job that did that. I went to IBM. You can go to Red Hat. You figure it out. So that satisfied that goal. The other thing I had as a goal in my life is that company needs to pay for me to see the world. So I found a career in computer science that lets me travel, architect solutions, don't stay at any one place long, on someone else's dime. And my background is computer science. Take that background and go all over the place with it. Income is limitless.
So just to recap, where did you say you worked at? So at this point, we've concluded with the questions we have up here. So I'm going to turn it over to some of your fellow students to ask the panelists those top questions, starting with Andrew, then Janai, and then finally Justin. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hello, my name is Andrew England, and I'm a computer science major at Charlotte University. And my question is, what are some of the positions you have for new-recent graduates?
I actually have an open rec for an associate engineer who has some coursework in Java and/or Python, who can come in and do things like unit tests and basically shoring up or backing up our senior engineers on tasks that some would consider grunt work, but it's really, getting to know the code base and making sure that, things are actually running smoothly. So that's just one example of a position that could be for someone who is just entry level right out of college.
All right. Hi, I'm Janai Goodwin. I am a junior at Shaw University and I'm a computer science major. And I am also an Army ROTC, planning to branch cyber. So the next question is, does Red Hat have any paid internships? And if so, how long are they?
I can take that one. We have quite a number of paid internships, and they actually pay really, really competitively, really well. I just recently saw the hourly pay of one of my interns and about hit the floor. But in my space, I'm in the Office of the CTO and the AI Center of Excellence. We have a number of internships, anywhere from data scientists to engineers that work on infrastructure. For example, if you're familiar with containers and Docker images and Kubernetes, making sure that some of our platforms stay up and running. We have interns that focus on data engineering. So our team specifically, we ingest quite a massive amount of data, and it's up to us to make sure that we're storing that data correctly and processing it and making sure we're doing our data governance on it so that users can get access to it. We also have people who work on tools that integrate tools that are more AI centric, things like TensorFlow, PyTorch, scikit-learn, NumPy, to roll those into our reference architecture for AI workloads. So quite a gamut. I'm sure others on the call will also talk about areas, but there's a tremendous variation of opportunities. And that's just in my team.
My name is Justin Creighton. I'm a senior at Shaw University as a computer science major. The third question.
Is Justin trying to talk? I can't quite hear him if he is.
This is better, Justin. You're just very low.
Sorry about that. So the third question was, I need help to apply and get an internship for the spring of 2021. Where should I go to get information for internships in general?
I think, if nobody has it, I think there's a document about this event that has that information. So there's a site where you can register or sign up for more information about internships, and then specifically jobs.redhat.com where you can search for internships.
I was going to say, I know all the positions should be at jobs.redhat.com and then put in the word internship.
Yeah. And I should actually, we didn't answer the question about how long the internships are. Most of them are summer internships, which means you'll be working from late May to mid-August. However, on occasion there are co-op opportunities as well. I'm not sure if Shaw allows co-ops, but we've had that as well, where you can work throughout the school year on a part-time basis, especially if you're a master's student or if you're kind of wrapping up your degree, and that's an opportunity that we provide as well.
All right, perfect. I think we have a few more minutes, and students, this information will be available to you, and we'll distribute some more information at the conclusion of this talk. So real quick, another question came in. So this student is Beyonce Wilburn. Oh well. And they do not study CS, nor any CS programs. Are there any opportunities at Red Hat for them?
I can jump in here. I would say yes. There are quite a few internships and opportunities across Red Hat. We have legal departments, we have finance departments, we have business departments. Just recently I saw we're working on a couple of marketing internships as well. And so again, I think it's really about building those networks, following the information on the Red Hat jobs website, and then just being persistent. And I definitely think that we can find an opportunity for you.
Yeah, I think Ron hit a really key point there. Although we are a software company, an infrastructure company, a technology company, that's just a portion of it. Engineering is just a portion of it. There's a whole slew of organizations that are centered around our products that have to be there, like sales and marketing and legal. So certainly go to jobs.redhat and take a look at that, and you'll see we're not just about engineering.
Perfect. And last question. So in your areas, what would be a typical responsibility of those interns?
I know in my group, what we usually do is we hook up the intern with a mentor for the summer. And that's someone that they can basically shadow. And then they're given a project to work on. Our intern last summer had a project to set up a feature flag server and feature flags are basically, it's code that allows you to turn on and off features inside of an application programmatically. And so they had to figure out, do the research on what's off the shelf items were out there, set it up, actually do some coding, create a demo. And then at the end of the summer, all the interns got together in the hat rack and did a presentation, and they were able to show their work. So it's really just a broad project that they're able to do. And in between that, we give them items off of our Agile board to just work regular software items. So it really is just a broad experience of what software development is like. That's for my team. Every team at Red Hat is different because all of the jobs are different, but that's just one example.
An example on our team is, since we do a lot of webinars, workshops, trying to educate the public and things like that, we've brought in a few associates, interns to actually look at putting one or two of our existing classes or products into a modern type workshop format. So they go investigate the workshop software. They got to learn about our technology that we want in that class, and then they got to understand the vocabulary and everything that the class has. And it's a whole project that could span over their summer to modernize one of our workshops or so. So much added value to us.
Yep. And we certainly put interns on meaningful tasks, right? Something that there are projects that we need done. For example, we just had an intern wrap up where she was doing containerizing popular AI ML benchmarks for OpenShift, which means she was taking something like ML Perf, moving that to a pipeline that can be run in any containerized environment, and doing benchmarks on an HP edge appliance, which, if you think about that, that's remarkable for an intern to be getting onto an HP appliance that was given to us by the hardware vendor and running benchmarks from an industry organization to see the performance of a GPU or a CPU for AI ML workloads. So we really do think hard on what the intern projects are going to be and make sure that it's something that's engaging for the interns, but also something where we need the work done. Whether an intern does it or not, it's something that has to be done.
All right, perfect. So I did say last question, but we do have one more. So this student has applied a lot throughout the years for internships, and unfortunately they didn't get it. So what does the application process look like for Shaw students, and what is happening so that they can be seen?
So I'd like to answer this question, and I'll give an answer that's slanted towards engineers, but really it applies to kind of any field, like non-engineers. So I think a lot of courses teach you, when you build your resume and submit an application, they say, okay, list your jobs, and you all being kind of young students, I mean, you really have like your basic kind of either service industry or whatever. What they don't tell you is kind of list things that you're passionate about. So what you want to do, and this is for engineers, but this is true for if you're going into marketing or business analyst, find some project that you like and do something with it. So spend a weekend just learning about some technology or some kind of business idea or book and implement it, some type of personal project, and include that on your resume. For anybody that's in computer science, I would say learn, get comfortable interacting with GitHub or GitLab, any of those websites, and just put some kind of weekend project work on there. It doesn't have to be anything that you complete, just something that shows that you've gone through the effort of learning something and can talk intelligently about it. I think just having a resume that just lists your jobs and kind of your GPA, that might get you a look, but there's no guarantees. But I know personally, if I can see that people contributed to open source, even if it's something as small as updated documentation, that gives them a leg up. That's true for anybody. And also, one pro tip I can give you when you want to learn what technologies that people are looking for and what you should include on your resume is look at job openings for the companies you want to work for. See the technologies they're looking for in a candidate, and then learn those technologies and put and do projects based around specifically what they're looking for. That'll help you kind of get past the filters for just a general application. And then that will get you to the phone interview and then the on-site interview and then the job. But specifically for the Shaw program, somebody else can talk to the ways that we're kind of widening the net so that we can get more talented people outside of our normal avenues.
I was just going to tell that person that asked to never give up. Every time you apply for something and you don't get it, look at your resume, add a point about yourself. By the end of the year, your resume should be slamming because you got a lot of points about yourself on this resume. All that means is something about your resume did not shine. It is not a reflection of you or anything. Get the best of you on paper and figure out how to do that. Again, every time you apply for something, you don't get it, say, I need to add something real good about myself to my resume. And keep doing that and don't give up and it'll get there.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, Michelle. I remember getting declined for, I applied for a job just as an office admin and they say, oh, you're too overqualified. We're not going to hire you. And I applied for a job at CarQuest and CarQuest wouldn't give me a job. I'm like, look, I need some money. So I went to the dry cleaners down the road and applied to a job at the dry cleaners. And that was, one of my jobs in college until SAS came and went to NC State and went to the computer science department and said, hey, I need your top Black engineering candidates. So I think this event is really key because we are starting to shift our focus to find talent and to be able to network with you all. Take advantage of this opportunity. You don't see it often, especially in the capacity that Red Hat is really committed to Shaw University. So please network like we've talked about. Please don't give up like Michelle talked about. These are the things where as we get to know you more and as we work with you on a mentorship level and guest lecture level, make sure we know who you are so that we can pass your resume to the right people.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that when you're submitting a resume, also definitely don't try and necessarily go strictly through that straight path, which is that website. Try and, for any job that I've tried to get, I've always tried to hand deliver my resume to someone who is in a decision-making position. So if that hiring manager email is available, try and get some time on their calendar, try and talk to the talent acquisition person to see if you can get some time with them so that you can make sure that you can speak to some specific things on your resume and make that impression yourself and not just have your resume just sent off into kind of the internet for people to kind of take a look at without that context.
All right, perfect. So students, If you have any more questions, you can add it to the Q&A section. We'll make those available to our panelists, and they'll try to answer them and get those answers back to you. All right, next slide, please. I want to hand it over to Tremaine Darby to talk about some of the next steps and what upcoming events are coming.
Thank you so much. So as others have mentioned, this is, part of a program that we are trying to set up in terms of a relationship with Shaw University. And so we've got some follow-up things that we are planning that are in the works. We have a diversity group inside of Red Hat called BUILD, Blacks United for Leadership and Diversity. And there we'll be sponsoring an Intro to Linux workshop in October. We will have another panel event like this one in late October. So it'll give it a chance to ask some different questions or, maybe get a different perspective. We talked a little bit about the internships, and those start recruiting for those in the fall. So, jump on that link and see what's available. And we're also setting up a Red Hat Academy relationship. And what Red Hat Academy does is it provides training and extra curriculum for actually getting your certifications for Red Hat software. So RHCSA and RHCE, which for many positions at Red Hat is almost like an automatic job because, they're looking for people with those certifications. And so just check out those job opportunities at the jobs link there. And I'll just send it back to Mr. Brown.
All right, thank you, thank you. Next slide, please. So I just want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you, all you students, for joining this call. And of course, thank you, panelists and Red Hat, for setting this up and partnering with Shaw University for this event and any future events that we do schedule. This is a fantastic opportunity. I hope the students, you were able to learn something today and hear their stories and how it relates to you. And one of the overall themes is persistence. Stay after it and keep going. Don't give up. And, one day you will reach your goal. All right, Dr. Wood, would you like to close us out?
Thank you so much, Professor Brown. I'm so happy that I was able to participate in this and learn something about the Red Hat experience that I didn't know before. And students, I want to invite you to make sure that you don't miss out on the next steps. One major next step is Red Hat Academy. And we just added a new faculty member to our computer science faculty, Dr. Benjamin Branch, who we specifically asked him to be a liaison with Red Hat Academy. So those of you who have a technical interest, not everybody on the call is going into technology, but if you're computer science, computer information systems, or thinking about an IT career, I would suggest that you contact benjamin.branch@shawu.edu and at least let him know that you are interested. He's in on this call, but let him know that you're interested in finding out how you can get into Red Hat Academy to get the extra certifications. As the Dean of the School of Business and Professional Studies, it's my goal to be able to say at the end of this semester that we have had several students who've taken advantage of that opportunity. So we're not going to just come and listen, we're going to be active. So I want to say thank you to each person who's participated. My doors are open, my email is open, and I look forward to connecting again. Especially thank you, Red Hat, for partnering with Shaw University. And on behalf of the students, we look forward to more of the same ahead. And good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Take care.